Our next speaker is a dreamer. He's someone who turned science fiction into science fact. He was the first person to go all around the world in his plane without a drop of oil. His journey was followed by millions around the world and inspired millions more. He's here to inspire us tonight. Professor Bertrand Piccard, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When I went 16 years ago to the aeronautic industry, and I told them that I wanted a solar-powered airplane that could fly around the world without a single drop of fuel, they looked at me and they said, "It's impossible. You are just crazy to imagine you can do something like that." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because it takes 5 minutes to calculate that the energy of the sun is not enough to drive an airplane day and night." The lesson of this, when you see that we have been hugely successful, is to analyze all the steps from the moment that something seems to be impossible until the moment that it is a success. The first step is to understand that the impossible exists only in the head of the people who believe that the future is an extrapolation of the past. The impossible does not exist in the reality. The impossible is the result of our mindset, of the paradigms that we have accumulated through years of experience and knowledge, but not through years of creativity and innovation. So what did we have to do after being told that it was impossible? We had to change the paradigm. Of course, if we have not enough energy from the sun, we cannot turn on the sun higher. So we need to decrease the consumption of the plane. And this was not 5 minutes to do it, it was several years. We needed to build an airplane that had the wingspan of a jumbo jet, Boeing 747, weighing the same weight than a family car, and having the speed and the power of a motorcycle. This was the paradigm shift. And this, I believe, is what we have to understand in our society today. We will never survive by producing more energy. We will survive by being more energy efficient, by saving natural resources, by using the new technologies in order to be at the same time more environmental friendly and more profitable. And I say more profitable on purpose because for a long time the green policy has said we have to reduce mobility, reduce our comfort, reduce our consumption. And it has created more resistance than support. So it's clear that today we need to involve the industry. We need to involve the political world. We need to involve the most symbolic part of our life, which is mobility. And we have to show that the adventure continues. We have to show that we can take it further. This is what we wanted to show when we succeeded after our flight around the world. Take it further. So for the aviation world, it's very funny because all the people who told me it was impossible, who were laughing and telling their CEOs, these guys will crash, now they went back to their CEOs and we absolutely have to develop electric airplane programs. And they all work on it, big or small companies. But if we want to continue and give access to energy efficiency, give access to environmental protection to more people, we here, who know the importance of mobility, have to include energy efficiency in everything we do. And can you imagine that in the time of electric aviation, we are still using combustion engines which are 120 years old? So we want the latest smartphone, the latest computer, but we have the oldest type of engines for our cars. We have insulations for houses that date of 100 years. light bulbs and heating systems that were invented in 1880. Is this innovation? Of course not. So today we have all the solutions. All the solutions exist to divide by 2 the energy consumption of the world, and therefore reduce very significantly the CO2 emissions. Why don't we use them? We don't use them because they are stuck in research labs, in startups, maybe like yours, even in big companies. But they don't make it through the market because we have a tendency in our world to push innovation and not to pull it. Pushing innovation, that means that we put a lot of public money for subsidies in order to obtain patents. Beautiful. But where do these patents go? Very often we don't know. What we need to do is not only push innovation, but we need to pull it. To pull it by creating a need in our society to use these innovations. And today, as long as the legal framework is laid back, complacent, as long as it is allowed to pollute and to be inefficient, you can work as much as you want, but your innovations will not come on the market. They will give you a prize, they will give you a patent, they will give you glory for an evening, but they will not make it to the market. We have to work very closely with the political world to give them the courage to adapt the legal framework to the reality of what exists today. This is what the Solar Impulse Foundation wants to help to do. Take it further. That meant for us to create the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions and to federate all the startups or companies who have solutions that exist and that are not used enough. We want to give them access for free. It's completely for free. It's a non-for-profit. Give them access for free to experts who can validate the credibility of their solutions, bring them in contact with investors in order to allow them to grow, and to get to a stage, hopefully by the end of this year, where we will have 1,000 solutions with a label, not only efficient and environmental friendly, but profitable. I believe it's the first time that the criteria of profitability will be integrated into the ecological criteria. And why is it so important? Because we need to be able to speak to the industry. We even need to speak to the people who deny climate change and tell them, even if you don't want to be ecological, you can be logical. You can use new technologies. You can use the result of the innovation. And if the legal framework is very ambitious in terms of environmental targets and in terms of energy policy, we will be in a stage where it will be almost mandatory to use innovation in order to comply with the rules. Mandatory to use innovation. Can you imagine the paradise for all of us? For all of you? For all the innovators who will make it to the market and who will make a very significant change. Not only protecting the environment, but creating jobs and making profit. In a way, to introduce a clean growth, which is much better than the dirty status quo that we have usually. It means that we can keep our lifestyle, keep our mobility, keep our comfort, keep our quality of life, keep growth, but for half the emissions of CO2 and dividing by 2 the waste of energy that is caused by the inefficient systems of today. So you see how much innovation is needed, but how much, as innovators, we need the courage of the political world to make an ambitious legal framework that will pull innovation. This is what I deeply hope, and we all have to go for it with my friends at the European Commission who work very hard to do it, but we have to show to the rest of the world that it's possible, and we count on you. Thank you. Good luck.